Welcome to the Dozy Historian, your relaxing corner for calm storytelling, forgotten histories, ancient civilizations, mysterious past events, and soothing educational narratives. Under the Prairie Stars, a cowboy's lullaby. The world here does not end, it merely extends, stretching out in an infinite tapestry of gold and ochre until it meets the sky. Here, on the edge of the Great Plains, time does not tick by the second or the minute. Instead, it moves with the slow, deliberate rhythm of the sun, making its long arc across the heavens. And now, as the day begins to surrender its hold on the earth, the great transformation begins. High above, the sky is a canvas of impossible width. It is a pale, washed-out blue that is slowly deepening, preparing itself for the indigo robes of the night. But before the darkness can claim the world, there is the golden hour, that sacred span of time when the harsh brightness of the midday sun softens into something tender, something warm and forgiving. A solitary rider moves through this vast ocean of grass. He is a silhouette against the burning light, a small, quiet figure in a landscape of giants. His name matters less than his presence. He is simply a part of this land, as much as the sagebrush, as much as the distant, flat-topped mesas that rise like ancient altars on the horizon. He sits easy in the saddle, his posture relaxed, born of years of riding. His horse, a sturdy chestnut gelding named Jasper, knows the way. There is no need for reins here, no need for guidance. The path is written in the earth, a faint, winding trail that snakes through the buffalo grass and the wildflowers. Clop, 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 clop. The sound of the hooves striking the dry, packed earth is a hypnotic metronome. It is a steady, rhythmic heartbeat that pulses through the silence of the prairie. It is a sound that invites sleep, a sound that says, there is no rush, there is nowhere else to be but here, in this moment, moving slowly toward the place of rest. The rider takes a deep breath, filling his lungs with the cooling air. The heat of the afternoon is lifting, rising up in a way, replaced by the gentle, cooling caress of the approaching evening. The air smells of dry earth and sun-baked stone. It smells of sagebrush, that sharp, clean, herbal scent that defines the West. It is a purifying scent, clearing the mind of clutter, leaving only the simplicity of the ride. To the west, the sun has begun its final descent. It is no longer a blinding white star, but a heavy glowing orb of molten amber. It hangs low, suspended just above the jagged line of the distant mountains. As it lowers, it paints the world in new colors. The prairie grass, which had been a pale straw color under the noon sun, now ignites. The tips of the grass catch the amber light, glowing as if lit from within. The wind, a soft and wandering breeze, moves through the fields. It ripples the grass, creating waves that roll across the landscape like a slow tide coming in. Swish, hush, swish, hush. The sound of the wind in the grass is a whisper, a lullaby sung by the earth itself. The rider watches his own shadow. It stretches out long and thin to his right, a distorted giant that glides over rocks and shrubs. As the sun dips lower, the shadow grows longer, reaching out, yearning for the east, stretching until it seems to touch the edge of the world. There is a profound stillness settling over the land. It is not an empty silence, but a living one. The birds of the day, the hawks that circled high on thermal currents, have gone to roost. Their sharp cries are replaced by the softer sounds of the evening. A mourning dove calls out from a hidden perch in a cottonwood tree near a dry creek bed. Coo-oo, coo-oo. The sound is mournful, yet deeply comforting, a soft velvet note in the quiet air. The light continues to change. The amber deepens into orange, a rich, burnt pumpkin shade that spills across the clouds. The clouds themselves are scattered thinly across the western horizon, long, wispy strokes of vapor. They catch the dying light and hold it, turning into islands of fire in a sea of darkening blue. The rider feels the leather of the saddle beneath him. It creaks softly with the movement of the horse. Creak, shift, creak, shift. It It is a familiar sound, the sound of work ending, the sound of a journey nearing its pause. He adjusts his hat, tilting the brim down to shield his eyes from the last direct rays of the sun. The felt of the hat is soft and worn, shaped by wind and rain and time. He looks at the mane of his horse, watching the coarse hairs flicker in the breeze. Jasper lowers his head, snatching a quick bite of grass as he walks, never breaking his rhythm. The horse is tired too. The rider can feel it in the animal's gait, a heaviness, a desire for the cool water of the creek and the freedom of the unburdened back. But it is a good tiredness. It is the honest fatigue that comes from a day well spent under the open sky. The colors on the horizon are shifting again. The orange is giving way to red, a deep crimson red that bleeds upward into the violet of the upper atmosphere. It is a spectacle of nature, a silent firework display that happens every evening, unseen by most, but witnessed here in all its glory. The mesas in the distance, once brown and gray, are now turning purple. This is the purple mountain majesties that the poets write about. The shadows in the crevices of the rocks deepen, turning from gray to black, creating a dramatic contrast with the glowing peaks. The land looks softer now. The harsh edges of the rocks, the sharp thorns of the cacti, are all blurred by the failing light. Everything is becoming fuzzy, indistinct, dreamlike. The rider closes his eyes for a moment, trusting the horse. He listens to the absence of the modern world. There are no engines, no sirens, no voices. There is only the wind, the hooves, and the beating of his own heart. The rhythm slows down, his breathing deepens. Inhale, the scent of cooling dust. Exhale, the weight of the day. The temperature drops another degree. A coolness brushes against the rider's cheek, a promise of the chill night to come. He reaches back and unties his bedroll from behind the saddle, not to use it yet, but just to feel the rough texture of the wool. It reminds him of the warmth that awaits him by the fire. The sun is now half hidden behind the horizon. It looks like a heavy coin slipping into a pocket. The light is changing from direct beams to a soft, diffuse glow. This is the gloaming, the twilight time. The world feels suspended. It is no longer day, but it is not yet night. It is a space in between, a space for dreaming. As the sun takes its final bow, a single star appears in the eastern sky. It is faint at first, a tiny pinprick of white light against the darkening blue. The evening star, the rider smiles faintly. It is the first watcher of the night, the guardian that will oversee his sleep. The amber light on the horizon is fading now, shrinking into a thin band of gold that separates the black earth from the blue sky. The transition is almost complete. The day has folded its wings. The prairie is preparing to sleep. The rhythmic clop, clop continues, slower now. The horse knows they are close to the camping spot. The rider knows it too. But for now, they just ride, floating through the fading amber, drifting through the liquid light, moving deeper and deeper into the peace of the coming night. Home is not always a structure built of timber and stone. It is not always a place marked on a map with coordinates and boundaries. Out here, in the vast open embrace of the American West, home is a feeling. It is the rhythmic sway of the saddle. It is the infinite ceiling of the sky. It is the sensation of moving toward a horizon that never seems to get any closer, a journey to a place that has no name. This is the long ride home to nowhere. The sun has finally dipped below the jagged edge of the world, leaving behind a sky that is no longer burning with fire, but cooling into a deep, bruising violet. The stark clarity of the day has dissolved. The sharp edges of the mesas and the prickly silhouettes of the cacti have softened, blurring into the gathering dusk. The world is losing its definition, and in this loss of detail there is a profound sense of peace. The rider, tired but content, lets the reins hang loose. There is no need to steer. There is no urgency to arrive. In this vast emptiness, every direction feels like the right direction, and every step is a destination in itself. He shifts his weight slightly in the saddle, a movement so subtle that only the horse feels it. The leather chaps he wears, heavy and worn smooth by years of friction, slide against the saddle leather. Shh, whip. Shh, whip. The sound is soft, like dry leaves brushing against each other. It is a comforting sound, a reminder of the protection he wears, a second skin that shields him from the brush and the briars. His horse, Jasper, exhales a long, rattling breath. Ooh. It is the sound of an animal releasing the tension of the day. The horse's head bobs rhythmically with every step, a hypnotic motion that the rider has known for most of his life. He watches the horse's ears flick back and forth, listening to things the human ear cannot catch, the scuttle of a beetle in the dry grass, the whisper of wind through a hollow log, the settling of the earth as it cools. The air is changing now. The heat that had radiated from the ground all afternoon is rising up, escaping into the atmosphere, replaced by a coolness that creeps out from the shadows of the canyons. It is a crisp, clean chill, the kind that wakes up the skin but soothes the mind. The rider unbuttons the top button of his collar, letting the cool air touch his neck. It feels like a cool cloth placed on a fevered brow, washing away the sweat and the dust of the trail. Dust. It is the perfume of the traveler. It hangs in the air behind them, a low, thin cloud that marks their passage. In the twilight, the dust motes catch the last lingering light of the upper atmosphere, glowing faintly like suspended gold dust before settling back down to the earth. The smell is ancient, pulverized rock, dried clay, and the history of 1,000 years crushed into powder. It smells of time. As they ride, the landscape seems to expand. Without the harsh shadows of the sun to divide the land into here and there, the prairie becomes a single, seamless ocean of gray and blue. The rolling hills look like frozen waves. The tall grass, now stripped of its green color by the darkness, looks like the fur of a great sleeping beast. The rider's mind begins to unspool. During the day, thoughts are sharp and necessary. Watch for snakes, look for water, check the herd, mend the fence. But now, in the blue hour, those thoughts are no longer needed. They detach themselves one by one, floating away into the gloom like dandelion seeds in a breeze. He thinks of nothing, and in thinking of nothing he feels everything. He feels the steady 4-beat rhythm of the walk. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. It is the heartbeat of his existence. It is a rhythm slower than a clock, slower than a frantic heart. It is the rhythm of geology, the rhythm of seasons. It lulls him. His eyelids feel heavy, weighted down by a pleasant gravity. He does not fight it. He allows his eyes to close for a few seconds at a time, trusting Jasper to place his hooves on solid ground. In the darkness behind his closed eyelids, he sees the after-images of the day, the bright flash of a hawk's wing, the sparkle of mica in a riverbed, the white clouds drifting across the blue. These images fade slowly, replaced by a velvety blackness that is as comforting as a heavy wool blanket. "Easy, boy," he whispers. His voice is rough, unused for hours, but soft. It is not a command, but a reassurance. Acknowledgement that they are in this together, two solitary souls drifting through the cosmos of the plains. Jasper's ear twitches back toward the sound, acknowledging the bond. They pass through a dry wash, a shallow riverbed where water only flows during the spring rains. Now it is a river of sand and smooth stones. The sound of the hooves changes as they step onto the sand. The sharp clop becomes a muffled thump, thump, thump. The silence deepens here, in the depression of the earth. The walls of the wash rise up on either side, blocking out the remaining light on the horizon, creating a tunnel of shadows. The air in the wash is cooler still, pooling at the bottom like water. It carries the scent of damp earth, a memory of the rain that fell months ago. The rider breathes it in deeply, tasting the moisture. It is a rare and precious thing in this arid land. Emerging from the wash, they climb a gentle slope. The leather of the saddle strains and creaks as the horse powers up the incline. Creak groan, creak groan. The sound is structural, organic. Up on the ridge, the breeze is stronger. It rustles the dry stalks of the yucca plants, creating a sound like dry paper rattling. Tusk, 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 tusk. The rider looks out over the land. In the distance, miles and miles away, there is nothing. No lights of a town. No smoke from a chimney. No headlights of a car. Just the vast, uninterrupted curve of the earth, For some, this emptiness might be terrifying. For him, it is a sanctuary. It means there are no demands on him. No one is calling his name. No one is expecting him. He is free to simply be. This is the beauty of riding to nowhere. When you have no destination, you can never be lost. You're always exactly where you're supposed to be. The sky above has transitioned from violet to a deep royal blue. The first stars have been joined by a dozen others, faint glimmers piercing the veil. The rider tilts his head back, stretching his neck. The vertebrae click softly. He looks at the vast expanse. It makes him feel small, but not insignificant. He feels like a single note in a grand, silent symphony. He thinks about the concept of home. He used to think it was a place with a porch and a rocking chair, but tonight, with the cool wind in his hair and the steady warmth of the horse beneath him, he realizes that home is this state of suspension. It is the space between the departure and the arrival. It is the peace of the journey itself. The tiredness in his muscles is a heavy, warm sensation. It starts in his shoulders, flows down his back, and settles in his legs. It is not a painful ache, but a dull, throbbing reminder of his own existence. It anchors him to the moment. He feels the weight of his hands resting on the pommel of the saddle. He feels the weight of his boots in the stirrups. He is heavy, grounded, connected to the earth through the animal beneath him. A coyote howls in the distance. Awoo! The sound is high and thin, carrying for miles across the open flats. It is joined by another, a series of sharp yips and barks, and then silence returns. The silence rushes back in to fill the space left by the sound, heavier and more profound than before. The rider does not feel fear. The coyotes are just other travelers singing their own song to the night, telling the moon that they too are alive. The trail begins to widen slightly as it winds through a patch of low scrub oak. The branches reach out like gnarled fingers black against the dark blue sky. The leaves are gone, but the shapes are beautiful in their complexity. The rider watches them pass, slow silhouettes moving across his field of vision. He is drifting now. His conscious mind is stepping back, allowing his subconscious to take the reins. He is half awake, half asleep, floating in that delicious twilight state where dreams begin to mingle with reality. He imagines for a moment that he is riding not on the earth but in the sky, the horse's hooves stepping on clouds, the stars close enough to touch. The rhythm continues, step, 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 step. Every step is a shedding of the past. Every step is a release. The worries of yesterday are left behind on the trail, invisible footprints that will be blown away by the morning wind. The concerns of tomorrow are too far away to matter. There is only now. There is only this breath. There is only this stride. And so, the long ride continues, not toward a house, not toward a town, but toward the heart of the night itself, towards the deep, restful nowhere, where the soul can finally lay down its burden and rest. The journey ends not with a shout, but with a sigh. It ends when the boots touch the earth, grounding the wanderer once more. The rider pulls gently on the reins, a silent signal that travels through leather and steel to the horse. Jasper stops. The motion ceases. For hours there has been the constant undulation of the ride, the swaying back and forth like a ship at sea. Now, suddenly, there is stillness. The world stops moving, and for a moment the rider's inner sense of balance has to adjust to the solidity of the ground. He swings his leg over the saddle, the leather groaning softly, and drops to the dirt. Thud. The sound is dull and final. Dust puffs up around his boots, small clouds that settle instantly in the cooling air. He stretches, reaching his hands toward the sky, feeling the vertebrae in his back pop and release. It is a good pain, the ache of a body used for its intended purpose. He runs a hand along Jasper's neck. The horse's coat is warm and damp with sweat. Good work, he murmurs. The horse nuzzles his shoulder, a gesture of camaraderie. The rider loosens the cinch, allowing the horse to breathe deeply, expanding its ribs. The saddle is lifted off, heavy and cumbersome, and placed on a flat rock. The blanket follows. The cool night air hits the horse's back, and a shiver of relief runs through the animal's skin. Now begins the ritual. It is not merely a chore. It is a ceremony as old as mankind itself. To build a fire is to create a small sun in the darkness. It is to claim a tiny circle of warmth and light in a vast, indifferent universe. The location is chosen with care. It is a small depression near the dry creek bed, shielded by a cluster of gnarled mesquite bushes and a singular ancient cottonwood tree. The tree's branches hang low, providing a roof of leaves that rustle softly in the breeze. Hush, hush, hush. This spot offers shelter from the wind that sweeps across the plains at night. The rider moves with slow, deliberate steps. There is no rush. The night is long, and the fire will be his companion for hours. First, the circle. He searches the ground for stones. He needs them to be the guardians of the flame, the barrier between the tame fire and the wild grass. He finds a smooth, river-polished stone, cool to the touch. He weighs it in his hand, feeling its density, its history. He places it on the ground, then another, and another. Clack, clack, clack. The sound of stone on stone is sharp and primitive. He builds a perfect circle, about 2 feet wide. It is a boundary. Inside the circle there will be life and heat. Outside the night waits. He arranges the stones carefully, fitting them together like a puzzle, ensuring there are no gaps for the embers to escape. He is building a hearth, a temporary home. Next comes the fuel. The rider walks into the gathering gloom, his eyes scanning the ground. He is looking for the bones of the forest, dead wood, dry and brittle. He does not cut living branches. Green wood smokes and hisses and fights the flame. He wants wood that has surrendered its moisture to the sun, wood that is ready to return its stored energy to the night. He finds a fallen branch of cedar. The bark is rough, peeling away in strips. He snaps a small twig. Snap. The sound is crisp, like a bone breaking. It is dry. Perfect. He gathers a handful of these small twigs, the kindling. These are the starters, the fragile promises of fire. Then he looks for the larger pieces. He finds a log of oak, heavy and dense. This is the fuel that will burn through the night, the slow-burning heart of the fire. He drags it closer to the circle. The wood smells of earth and age. When he breaks the cedar branches, a faint, spicy scent is released into the air, a mixture of resin and dust. It is the perfume of the wilderness. Returning to the stone circle, he kneels. The ground is cooling rapidly. He can feel the chill seeping through the knees of his denim jeans. This position, kneeling before the hearth, is an act of reverence. He begins the architecture of the fire. He does not simply throw the wood into a pile. He builds. First, he takes a handful of dry grass and dried sagebrush leaves, crumbling them into a soft nest in the center of the stones. This is the tinder. It is soft, airy, and waiting for the spark. Over this nest, he arranges the smallest twigs in a teepee formation. He leans them against each other, creating a cone. This shape allows the air to flow upward, drawing the flame higher. He places them with the precision of a watchmaker. If they are too close, the fire will choke. If they are too far apart, the flame will not jump from one to the other. Rustle, snap, place. Rustle, snap, place. The rhythm is soothing. His mind focuses entirely on the task. The worries of the world, the cattle prices, the weather forecasts, the distant rumors of railroads, all fade away. The world shrinks down to this 2-foot circle of stone and wood. He adds slightly larger sticks now, building a second layer over the first cone. The structure grows. It looks like a small wooden skeleton. He pauses to admire his work. Even unlit, it is beautiful in its symmetry. It represents potential. It represents the promise of warmth. The darkness has fully settled now. The rider can barely see his own hands, guided more by touch than by sight. The stars above are brilliant, piercing the black canopy, but down here on the earth, he needs his own light. He reaches into his shirt pocket and pulls out a small metal tin. Inside are his matches, lucifers, as the old-timers called them. He takes one out. It is a simple stick of wood with a red tip, a tiny wand of magic. He closes the tin and puts it away. He holds the match in his right hand. He leans in close to the wood structure, shielding the area with his body to block any stray breeze. The air is still, holding its breath in anticipation. He finds a rough surface on one of the hearth stones. He positions the match. This is the moment of transformation, the moment where the cold potential becomes living heat. Scritch. The sound of the match striking the stone is loud in the silence. a flare of light. The sulfur smell hits his nose immediately, sharp, chemical, and pungent. It is the smell of ignition. The flame on the match head is bright yellow and blue, dancing frantically on the tip of the wood. The rider cups his hand around it, protecting the newborn flame. It reflects in his eyes, two tiny dancing points of light in the darkness. He lowers the match slowly, gently, into the heart of the wooden tipi, touching it to the nest of dry grass and sage. For a second, nothing happens. Then, a tiny curl of smoke, and then, the catch. The dry grass accepts the gift of fire. A small orange glow begins to spread, eating through the tinder. It is silent at first, just a glowing infection of light. Then a soft whoosh as the sage ignites. The flame grows. It is hungry. It reaches up, licking at the cedar twigs. The wood resists for a heartbeat, and then it too catches. Crackle. Pop. The first sound of the fire. It is a cheerful, lively sound. The yellow tongues of fire climb the ladder of the teepee, jumping from twig to stick. The light expands, pushing back the shadows. The gray stones of the circle are suddenly illuminated in warm, flickering orange. The rider's hands, still cupped near the warmth, glow with the light. He watches the birth of the fire with deep satisfaction. There is something primal in watching a fire grow. It connects him to every ancestor who ever sat in a cave or on a plain, watching the same dance of light. It is a victory over the night. He does not move yet. He stays kneeling, tending to the infant fire. He adds another stick, carefully placing it where the flames are hottest. The fire breathes. He can hear it inhaling oxygen and exhaling heat. Hiss, snap, crackle. The scent of burning cedar rises up. It is sweet and aromatic, masking the sulfur of the match. The smoke drifts upward in a thin gray column, rising straight up into the still air until it disappears into the dark. The circle of light widens. It reveals the boots of the rider, the legs of the horse standing a few yards away, and the rough bark of the cottonwood tree. The shadows of the branches dance on the ground, moving in time with the flickering flames. The camp is no longer just a spot on the ground. It has become a place. The fire has anchored it. The rider sits back on his heels, his face bathed in the golden glow. The warmth hits his cheeks, flushing them. The cold that had started to settle in his bones begins to retreat. He takes a deep breath of the wood smoke-scented air. The ritual has begun. The fire is alive. The fire is now established. It has graduated from a fragile, flickering infant into a steady, breathing entity. The flames have settled down, no longer leaping frantically for the sky, but glowing with a consistent orange warmth. They have begun to consume the heart of the oak log, turning the wood into a bed of pulsing red coals. So this is the perfect heat, not the wild heat of the flame, but the enduring heat of the ember. The rider shifts his position on the ground. He has spread his canvas bedroll out, not unrolling it fully yet, but using it as a cushion against the hard earth. He sits cross-legged, his posture relaxed, his hands resting on his knees. The warmth of the fire radiates against his face and chest, a sharp contrast to the cold air pressing against his back. It is a dual sensation, fire and ice, that makes him feel intensely alive. But the ritual of the night is not complete. The fire provides warmth for the skin, but something else is needed to warm the soul. He reaches for his saddlebags. They are old leather, cracked and scarred from 1,000 miles of sun and rain. He undoes the brass buckle. Clink. It is a small sound, but clear. He reaches inside and pulls out the most essential tool of the cowboy's kitchen, the coffee pot. It is a simple vessel. Once it might have been a bright, shiny blue enamel. Now it is blackened by soot, chipped in places to reveal the dark iron beneath, and dented from being tied to the saddle. It looks like a relic, an artifact of the trail. But to the rider it is beautiful. It holds the promise of the morning and the comfort of the night. He stands up slowly and walks to the edge of the firelight, where his water canteen hangs from a low branch of the cottonwood tree. He uncorks it. The sound of the cork coming loose is a soft thwack. He tilts the canteen over the pot. Glug, glug, glug. The water pours out in a clear silver stream, catching the firelight as it falls. It sounds heavy and cool as it hits the metal bottom of the pot. This water was drawn from a spring miles back, cold and sweet, filtered through the limestone of the hills. It carries the taste of the earth's deep veins. He fills the pot halfway, judging the amount not by measurement but by the weight in his hand. He returns to the fire and sets the pot down on a flat rock near the edge of the coals. He does not put it directly into the flames yet. First, the offering. He reaches back into the saddlebag and pulls out a small sack made of muslin cloth. Even before he opens it, the scent escapes. It is a rich, heavy aroma that cuts through the smell of the wood smoke. It is the smell of civilization carried into the wild. It is the smell of roasted beans, dark and oily and full of energy. He opens the drawstring. The scent intensifies. It is earthy, bitter, and chocolatey all at once. He takes a handful of the coarse grounds. They feel rough against his palm, like dark sand. He lets them fall into the water. Shh, shh. They hit the surface of the water and float there for a moment, a dark island in the clear liquid, before slowly beginning to sink. He adds another handful. Cowboys like their coffee strong, strong enough to float a horseshoe, as the old saying goes. It is not just a beverage. It is a medicine against the fatigue, a tonic for the loneliness. Now he moves the pot directly onto the bed of red-hot coals. He settles it firmly, ensuring it won't tip. The metal hisses slightly as it touches the intense heat. Tss. And now the waiting begins. Waiting is an art form in the West. You wait for the rain. You wait for the herd. You wait for the sun to rise. And now he waits for the boil. He leans back, resting his weight on one arm. He looks around him, letting his senses expand beyond the firelight. The air tonight is particularly still. In this stillness, the scents of the land become more pronounced. The dominant scent is sagebrush, Artemisia tridentata. It is the signature perfume of the American West. During the day, under the baking sun, the sagebrush releases a sharp, spicy, camphor-like smell that can be overwhelming. But at night, as the air cools, the scent changes. It becomes subtler, sweeter. It smells of clean earth, of rain that fell long ago, of ancient herbal remedies. The rider breathes it in deep through his nose. Inhale. The sagebrush scent enters his lungs, cool and purifying. It feels like it cleanses the dust from his insides. It is a wild smell, untamed and raw. Then, the second scent begins to rise. The water in the pot is heating up. The coffee grounds are releasing their oils. A thin wisp of steam curls out of the spout of the pot. It spirals up, dancing with the wood smoke. The smell of the coffee begins to mix with the smell of the sage. It is a strange, perfect harmony. The dark, roasted, heavy scent of the coffee grounds blends with the light, herbal, airy scent of the sagebrush. One smells of comfort and home. The other smells of freedom and space. Together, they create the unique aroma of a camp on the open range. The rider watches the pot intently. He listens. At first, there is silence from the metal vessel. Then, a low hum begins. It is the sound of the water molecules vibrating, gaining energy. The hum grows louder, turning into a murmur. Burble. Bloop. The first bubble breaks the surface, then another. The dark liquid begins to churn. The steam coming from the spout grows thicker, whiter, shooting up in a steady stream now. The aroma explodes into the air, surrounding the rider in a cloud of warmth. It triggers memories. It reminds him of mornings in the bunkhouse, of cups shared with friends who are now gone, of chilly dawns before a long drive. He reaches out with a gloved hand and carefully moves the pot to the side of the coals, just enough to stop the rolling boil, but keep it simmering. He pours a splash of cold water from the canteen into the spout. Splash. This is the trick. The cold water shocks the grounds, forcing them to settle to the bottom of the pot, leaving the coffee clear. He picks up his tin cup. It is battered, just like the pot. He holds it by the rim, waiting. The steam rising from the pot looks like a ghost in the firelight. It twists and turns, vanishing into the darkness above. The rider feels a sense of profound gratitude. It is a simple thing, a pot of coffee. But out here, miles from the nearest town, it feels like a luxury. It feels like a miracle. He pours. The liquid comes out black as the night itself. It fills the cup, swirling and steaming. The heat radiates through the thin metal of the cup, warming his gloved hands instantly. He holds the cup with both hands, bringing it close to his face, letting the steam bathe his skin. The moisture feels good on his windburned cheeks. He closes his eyes and just breathes. Coffee and sage, smoke and night. This is the scent of peace. The world outside the firelight has vanished. There is only this sensory bubble. The coyote has stopped howling. The wind has died down. Even the crickets seem to have paused their symphony, as if they too are waiting for him to take that first sip. He lifts the cup to his lips. He blows gently on the surface, rippling the black reflection of the fire. Ooh, the steam swirls away. He tilts the cup. The first sip is always the best. It is scalding hot, bitter, and strong. It shocks the tongue and warms the throat. He creates a small sound of satisfaction. Ah! The liquid travels down, a river of heat moving through his chest, settling in his stomach. It spreads warmth through his entire body, chasing away the last lingering chill of the twilight ride. He lowers the cup but keeps it cradled in his hands. He looks into the fire, his mind drifting. The scent of the sagebrush seems to wrap around him like a blanket. It is a scent that says, "You are here. You are safe. You are part of this land." The combination of the caffeine and the calm creates a unique state of mind, alert yet relaxed, awake yet dreaming. He watches the embers pulse, breathing in time with him. Red, then gray. Red, then gray. He takes another sip. This one is smoother. The bitterness has become familiar. He tastes the faint, metallic tang of the tin cup, a taste that belongs to every outdoor meal he has ever eaten. The night is deep now. The fading amber is long gone. The ritual of the fire is completed. Now he is simply existing in the scent of sagebrush and coffee. It is a moment of pure presence. He thinks about the people sleeping in soft beds in the cities far to the east. They have roofs and walls and electric lights. But do they have this? Do they have the smell of the wild sage mixing with their morning brew? Do they have the silence of a million acres as their dining hall? He doubts it. And in that moment, he wouldn't trade his hard ground and his tin cup for all the velvet and silk in the world. He is home. Shadows dance on the canvas tent. Adhaya yeti atent pijuyal ebin samuhni. Hypnotic. Ekane agner alo. Abian taanbur kyan bhasar opar para. Chayar kela brna. Kra habe. Ya manusar munke kumir rajye niye yete sahayi kre yehetu three fighter shbid anek barar tai agar meto etekeo ami tritre bhag kre likhab nice part one deo ya lo ekaneta anbur setap kyan bhasar texkar ibn agner aloy tairi hoya pratham Chayar Natsher Brna Deoya Hiechi. Chapter 5 Shadows Dance on the Canvas Tent. Part 1 of 3. 3. The Silent Theater. The night has now fully descended, wrapping the prairie in a cloak of absolute black. The sky is no longer a dome of blue, but a limitless depth of obsidian, scattered with the dust of diamonds. But down here, in the small, intimate circle of the camp, there is a different kind of light. The fire is burning steadily now. It has consumed the smaller twigs and is now feeding on the heart of the oak log. The flames are lower, more intense, glowing with a rich, mesmerizing orange. They do not sit still. They are alive, constantly shifting, twisting, and reaching upward. And in their movement, they create a silent partner, the shadow. The rider has finished his coffee. The warmth of the liquid is now a part of him. It is time to prepare the sanctuary for the night. He rises from his spot near the fire and walks to the back of his saddle. He unties the leather thongs that hold his shelter. It is a simple thing, a pup tent made of heavy waxed canvas. It is not the nylon of modern camping, bright and noisy. This is organic material. It is cotton duck, tightly woven, heavy, and smelling of beeswax and linseed oil. It smells of storms weathered and nights spent in the deep woods. He unrolls it. Thump. Wish. The sound of the heavy fabric hitting the ground is muffled. He moves with practiced efficiency. He does not need poles. He uses a low branch of the cottonwood tree and a piece of rope to hoist the ridge of the tent. He stakes down the corners, driving the wooden pegs into the soft earth with the heel of his boot. Thud, thud, thud. The structure rises. It is a small triangle of pale fabric against the dark night. It is modest, barely high enough to sit up in, but to the cowboy it is a castle. It is a wall between him and the elements. He crawls inside to arrange his bedroll, and then he backs out, sitting just at the entrance. He leaves the flaps open, facing the fire. This is the perfect vantage point. He is sheltered from the wind that has begun to pick up, yet he is still connected to the warmth of the hearth. And now the show begins. The canvas of the tent acts as a projection screen. It is a pale, cream-colored surface textured with the weave of the threads. As the fire flickers, it casts light onto the surface, but the light is interrupted by objects, by the rider's boots, by the saddle resting nearby, by the tall grass swaying at the edge of the circle, and by the low-hanging branches of the cottonwood tree. These interruptions create shadows, and because the fire is never still, the shadows are never still. They dance. The rider leans back against his saddle, resting his head, and watches the side of his tent. It is a silent theater. First, there is the shadow of the grass. The tall blades of bluestem grass grow near the fire pit. As the wind brushes through them, they sway back and forth. Swish, swish. On the canvas, their shadows appear as long, thin fingers. They stretch out, reaching across the fabric, then retract, then stretch again. They look like ink spilled on parchment, constantly changing shape. To the rider, they look like waves on a shoreline. Their rhythmic back and forth motion is hypnotic. It mimics the rhythm of his own breathing. Inhale, the shadows stretch. Exhale, the shadows retreat. Then there is the shadow of the smoke. This is more subtle. The smoke from the fire rises in thick gray plumes. When the fire flares up, the light catches the smoke and casts a faint, ghostly shadow on the tent wall. It looks like water flowing underwater, a swirling, nebulous gray pattern that drifts upward and vanishes. It is captivating in its shapelessness. It invites the mind to wander, to see shapes in the clouds, a horse running, a bird flying, a face from the past. The light of the fire itself plays tricks. The flames are orange and yellow, but the light they cast on the canvas is a warm, buttery gold. It flickers, pulse, dim, flare, pulse. The entire tent seems to breathe with this light. When a log settles in the fire with a soft crash, a shower of sparks flies up. For a moment, the canvas is illuminated by 100 tiny dancing stars of light that race upward and fade. The rider watches them, his eyes tracking their frantic ascent until they burn out. The texture of the canvas adds depth to the image. He can see the weave of the fabric, the warp and weft, the over and under pattern of the cotton threads. The light catches the high points of the weave and leaves the low points in shadow. It gives the tent a landscape of its own, a microscopic terrain of hills and valleys. He focuses on one small patch of the fabric. He traces the lines with his eyes. It is a meditation. He is not thinking about the trail ahead. He is not thinking about the cattle. He is simply observing the interplay of physics and nature, photon and fiber, flame and solid. Outside the tent, the wind picks up slightly. It pushes against the side of the canvas. Flap, snap, flap. The fabric ripples. This movement distorts the shadows, making them jump and tremble. It looks as if the shadows are laughing, shaking with mirth. The sound of the canvas flapping is a comforting percussion, a reminder that the shelter is doing its job, holding back the wind. The rider feels safe. This is a primal feeling. For thousands of years, humans have sat in shelters, watching the firelight play on the walls. It is a genetic memory of safety. The monsters are out there in the dark, but here, inside the glow, inside the canvas walls, there is order. There is warmth. He watches his own shadow. He lifts his hand to scratch his chin. On the wall of the tent, a giant, dark hand rises up. It mimics his movement perfectly, but on a grand scale. He turns his hand, making a silhouette of a bird. The shadow bird flies across the canvas sky. He smiles. It is a child's game, played by a grown man in the middle of nowhere. It brings a sense of innocence, a lightness to the heart. The fire is settling down again. The flames are less frantic now, more steady. The shadows slow down. The dance becomes a waltz. The sharp edges of the silhouettes blur as the firelight softens. The contrast between light and dark becomes less harsh. The gold turns to a deep amber. The black shadows turn to a soft charcoal gray. The rider's eyelids are heavy. The visual rhythm, the flicker, the sway, the pulse, is acting like a pendulum. It is swinging him closer and closer to sleep. The world is narrowing down to this patch of lit canvas. The vast prairie is gone. The mountains are gone. There is only this warm, glowing triangle in the void. He listens to the sounds that accompany the visual show. The crackle of the wood, the sigh of the wind, the breathing of the horse nearby, and the soft rustle of the canvas itself. It is a symphony of safety. Shadows dance, he thinks to himself, and I am the audience of one. He pulls his blanket up around his shoulders. The wool is scratchy but warm. He settles deeper into his bedroll. He does not close his eyes yet. He wants to watch the show a little longer. He wants to see what shapes the fire will paint next. Maybe a cloud, maybe a mountain, maybe a dream. The shadows lengthen as the fire burns lower. They stretch out, becoming thin and elegant. They seem to be reaching for him, wrapping him in the embrace of the night. The dance is ending. The stillness is coming. The transition is complete. The twilight, with its bruised purples and fading oranges, has been erased. The last memory of the sun has slipped beneath the western rim of the world, taking with it the heat and the urgency of the day. Now, there is only the night, but night is too simple a word for what happens out here on the high plains. In the cities, night is merely the absence of light, a switch flicked off. Here, the night is a presence. It is a physical weight, a velvet blanket that descends slowly from the heavens to wrap the earth in a quiet embrace. The rider feels a shift in his bones. The air has changed. It is no longer the thin, dry air of the afternoon. It has become heavy, cool, and still. It presses against his skin, calming the nerves, slowing the blood. The temperature has dropped significantly, a sharp reminder that this land belongs to the cold as much as it belongs to the sun. He pulls his coat tighter around him, savoring the warmth trapped between the fabric and his body. He looks up. To look up at the sky from the open prairie is to look into the face of eternity. Without the interference of city lights, without the haze of pollution, the universe is revealed in all its terrifying beauty. The sky is not black. It is a deep, rich indigo, so dark it appears black until you look closely. And it is crowded. It is teeming with light. The stars are not scattered randomly. They are spilled across the dome of the sky like diamond dust on dark silk. They burn with a ferocity that seems impossible from such a distance. Some are steady, piercing white points of light. Others shimmer and dance, blinking in red or blue, breathing with the atmosphere. Directly overhead stretches the Milky Way. It is a river of light, a cloudy, luminous band that cuts the sky in half. The great rift, the dark lane of dust that runs through the galaxy, is visible to the naked eye, a shadow within the light. The rider traces its path. To the native people who rode this land before him, it was the path of souls. To him, it looks like smoke from a celestial campfire, drifting forever through the void. He leans his head back against his saddle, his eyes tracing the familiar constellations. They are his old friends, the only maps that never change. There is Orion, the hunter, rising in the east. His belt of 3 bright stars is a perfect line, a cosmic geometry. The rider imagines the giant figure striding across the sky, his sword hanging at his side, hunting the great bull Taurus. It is a story written in light, a story told for thousands of years by shepherds and sailors and cowboys alike. Higher up, the 7 sisters, the Pleiades, huddle together in a tight cluster. They look like a tiny glowing fingerprint on the sky. They are faint, best seen out of the corner of the eye. When he looks directly at them, they seem to shy away, but when he looks past them, they sparkle with a delicate ghostly light. The vastness of the display is humbling. Under this canopy, the rider's problems, the ache in his back, the miles left to ride, the worries of the future, shrink to nothingness. How can a man worry about tomorrow when he is staring at light that left its source 1,000 years ago? The night sky offers a perspective that is the ultimate medicine for the anxious mind. It says, "You are small, you are temporary, and that is okay. Rest now, for the universe carries on without your effort." The silence of the deepening night is not empty. It has a texture. It is a thick, resonant silence. The wind, which had blustered and pushed during the day, has laid down to sleep. There is only the faintest breath of air now, moving through the sagebrush like a whisper. Whoosh. The stillness allows the smallest sounds to travel for miles. The rider hears the snap of a twig somewhere in the darkness beyond the firelight. It is distinct, sharp, maybe a jackrabbit moving with cautious hops, maybe a deer stepping carefully toward the creek. He does not feel fear. In the deepening night, there is a truce between the hunter and the hunted. Everyone is simply trying to survive the cold, to find rest. The fire in front of him has settled into a bed of glowing coals. The flames are gone, replaced by a pulsing, rhythmic heat. The light from the embers is deep red, a heartbeat in the dark. It illuminates the ground for only a few feet, creating a small island of visibility. Beyond that red circle, the darkness is absolute. It is a wall of black. But the rider's eyes have adjusted. He can see the outlines of the land. The hills are darker shapes against the dark sky, sleeping giants huddling together. The cottonwood tree above him is a silhouette of intricate lace, its branches motionless against the stars. He feels a profound sense of isolation, but not loneliness. Loneliness is a craving for company. Isolation, out here, is a privilege. It is the freedom to be entirely oneself, unobserved, unjudged. The deepening night strips away the masks we wear for other people. In the dark, there is no need to smile, no need to speak, no need to pretend. There is only existence. He takes a deep breath. The air is so cold now that it stings his nostrils pleasantly. It smells of frost, even though the frost has not yet formed. It smells of ozone and distant snow. It is the cleanest air on earth. He imagines it filling his lungs, circulating through his blood, cooling him from the inside out. Inhale, the starlight. Exhale, the dust. The horse, Jasper, is standing just outside the immediate glow of the fire, tied to a low branch. The rider can hear him shifting his weight. Crunch, a hoof pressing into the dry soil. The horse is resting a leg, his hip cocked, his head low. Every now and then he blows air through his nose, a soft, fluttering sound. Purr bit. It is a sound of contentment. The horse feels the deepening night too. He knows that the time for work is over. The saddle is off. The bit is out. The night belongs to him as much as it belongs to the rider. The rider closes his eyes for a moment, letting his other senses take over. Without sight, the night feels even larger. He can feel the rotation of the earth. It sounds impossible, but out here, in the dead quiet, you can almost feel the planet turning, rolling slowly backward, turning its face away from the sun and into the cooling dark. It is a slow, steady motion, a rocking cradle for all living things. He opens his eyes again. A shooting star slashes across the western sky. It is a streak of brilliant green and white, lasting for less than a second before burning up in the atmosphere. A grain of sand from the cosmos, ending its million-year journey in a flash of glory above the American prairie. The rider smiles. A silent wish forms in his mind, not for riches, not for fame, but for a peaceful sleep and a clear dawn. The night deepens further. The blue hour is long gone. This is the black hour. The shadows have merged into a single entity. The world has simplified. There are no colors anymore, only shades of gray and black and the fiery red of the embers. This simplification is the key to sleep. The mind cannot rest if it is bombarded with stimuli. The deepening night removes the stimuli. It takes away the colors. It takes away the horizon. It takes away the details. It leaves only the essentials: warmth, breath, and the steady beat of the heart. The rider stretches his legs out toward the coals. The heat soaks into his leather boots, warming his toes. A pleasant lethargy begins to creep up his limbs. It feels like warm water rising. His eyelids feel heavy, as if tiny weights have been attached to the lashes. He blinks slowly. Blink, the stars are there. Blink, the fire is there. Blink, the dark is there. Everything is exactly where it should be. The order of the universe is intact. There is no chaos here, only the grand, predictable clockwork of the heavens. The deepening night is a promise. It promises that the sun will return, but for now, the darkness is the ruler. And it is a benevolent ruler. It demands nothing but surrender. It asks the rider to lay down his burdens, to let go of the reins, and to trust in the turning of the world. He is ready to listen to the song of the night. He is ready to drift. The canopy of stars stands guard, a billion unblinking eyes watching over his rest. When the eyes finally close, the world does not disappear. It merely changes its form. The sharp lines of the horizon and the colors of the sunset fade away, leaving the stage open for a different kind of magic. In the absence of sight, the ears wake up. They become the primary navigators of the night. And here, on the open prairie, the night is never truly silent. It is filled with a music so old, so rhythmic, that it predates human language. Language. This is the symphony of the high plains. It is a concert performed without a conductor, a masterpiece that plays on an infinite loop for an audience of sleeping hills and wandering souls. The first movement begins with the wind. During the day, the wind is a worker. It pushes the clouds, dries the earth, and fights against the rider. But at night, the wind transforms into a musician. It softens, it loses its aggression, and gains a melody. Tonight, the wind is coming from the southwest, sliding down from the distant mountains, and rolling across the miles of flatland. It does not just blow, it whispers. It moves through the landscape like a bow moving across the strings of a cello. Shh, whoosh, shh. The rider lies still in his tent, listening. He can hear the wind interacting with every object in the camp. It has a different voice for everything it touches. When it moves through the tall blue-stem grass, the wind sounds like silk rubbing against silk. It is a soft, friction-filled sound, a dry hiss that rises and falls in waves. The grass bows in unison, millions of stalks bending together, creating a sound that mimics the ocean. It is the tide of the prairie washing in and washing out, rhythmic and hypnotic. Swish, hush, swish, hush. Then the wind finds the cottonwood tree above the camp. Here the sound changes. The leaves of the cottonwood are shaped like hearts, and they hang on flat stems that allow them to tremble in even the slightest breeze. When the wind passes through them, they clatter softly. It sounds like distinct individual notes, like 1,000 tiny paper fans snapping open and shut. Clatter, rustle, murmur. It is the sound of a conversation. The tree seems to be whispering secrets to the night, telling stories of the seasons it has seen. The writer focuses on the sound. It is complex, yet soothing, a natural white noise that drowns out the ringing of silence in his ears. But the wind is only the background harmony. The melody belongs to the virtuosos of the night, the crickets. They begin slowly. At twilight there was only one or two, tentative and shy. But now, as the air cools and the darkness deepens, the chorus swells. It is not a chaotic noise. It is a synchronized pulse. The crickets are the timekeepers of the prairie. Chirp, 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 chirp. The sound is metallic, sharp, and clear. It cuts through the soft sound of the wind, like a bell. The writer imagines them out there in the grass, thousands of small, hidden fiddlers, rubbing their wings together in the dark. They are invisible, yet their presence fills the entire world. There is a fascinating science to their song. They are nature's thermometer. As the night grows colder, their tempo slows down. The beat becomes more deliberate, more spaced out. But right now, the earth is still holding the warmth of the day, and the tempo is steady. It is a perfect andante, walking pace, like the rider finds himself breathing in time to the crickets. Inhale on the chirp, exhale on the silence. Inhale, exhale. It is a lullaby composed of pure rhythm. There is no emotion in the cricket's song, no demand. It simply is. It is the sound of life continuing, the sound of the earth's heartbeat. It tells the rider that he is not alone in this vastness. He is surrounded by life, by a multitude of tiny beings who are living their own lives. in the safety of the grass. Occasionally, a different player joins the symphony. From the direction of the dry creek bed, a katydid calls out. Its song is raspy and repetitive, distinct from the musical chirp of the field cricket. Katydid, katydidn't. It adds a texture to the soundscape, a rougher note that highlights the smoothness of the crickets. And then there is the earth itself. As the ground cools, the rocks and the soil contract. Sometimes this creates a sound, a sudden soft pop or a shifting of gravel. It is the sound of the planet settling into its sleep. The fire, too, contributes to the score. The logs have burned down to coals, but occasionally a pocket of sap explodes, or a piece of wood shifts. Snap, hiss. These sudden sounds do not startle the rider. They are familiar. They are the punctuation marks in the long sentence of the night. The rider closes his eyes, letting the visual world go completely. He constructs a map of his surroundings based purely on sound. To his left, the rustle of the cottonwood leaves. That is where the tree stands, a sentinel. To his right, the steady crunch-chew of Jasper grazing. That is where his horse is, safe and calm. Behind him, the whistle of the wind through the sagebrush. That is the open range, the miles of freedom. In front of him, the soft crackle of the embers. That is the hearth, the center of his universe. The symphony wraps around him. It creates a bubble of sound that feels protective. The vast silence of space is kept at bay by this wall of gentle noise. He notices how the sounds seem to weave together. The wind surges and the leaves clatter louder. The wind dies and the crickets take the lead. It is a call and response, a natural improvisation that has been playing on the stage for millions of years. The sound is monotonous in the best possible way. It does not demand attention. It invites indifference. It invites the mind to stop thinking, to stop analyzing, and just to float on the waves of sound. The repetitive nature of the cricket's chirp acts like a mantra. Chirp, chirp, chirp. It bores the conscious mind, giving it nothing new to latch onto. And when the conscious mind gets bored, it begins to shut down. It begins to loosen its grip on reality. The barrier between waking and sleeping begins to thin. The rider feels his body sinking deeper into the bedroll. The ground beneath him feels less hard, more supporting. The sounds of the night are no longer separate from him. They are moving through him. He is becoming a note in the song. The wind brushes against the canvas of the tent. Flap, flap. It sounds like a mother tucking in a child, smoothing the sheets. Listen, the night seems to say. Listen to the song of the grass. Listen to the song of the wind. There is nothing else you need to know tonight. The symphony continues, steady and unwavering, a blanket of sound woven from the air itself. And under this blanket, the rider begins to drift. The fire crackles softly, a small island of light in the vast ocean of the prairie night. But the rider is not the only one seeking the comfort of this camp. Just at the edge of the firelight, where the golden glow fades into the charcoal shadows of the cottonwood tree, stands the most important figure in the rider's life. His name is Jasper. He is a quarter horse, built of muscle and bone and spirit, with a coat the color of burnished copper. For the last 12 hours, he has been the rider's legs, his speed, and his strength. He has galloped through dry washes, climbed rocky ridges, and held the line against wandering steers. He has been a machine of flesh and blood. But now, the saddle is gone, the bit is removed. The heavy leather bridle has been replaced by a soft rope halter. Jasper is no longer a machine. He is simply a living soul, reclaiming his own body for the night. The rider, lying in his tent, looks out through the open flap. He sees the silhouette of the horse against the starry sky. It is a familiar shape, a shape that signifies home more than any building ever could. Jasper is resting in the way that only horses can. He is not lying down, he is standing, yet he is deeply asleep. It is a miracle of biology, a stay apparatus in his legs that allows him to lock his joints and relax every muscle without falling. He is a statue of peace. One hind leg is cocked, the hoof resting lightly on the toe. His hip is dropped to one side. It is the posture of absolute relaxation. His head, usually held high and alert, hangs low now. His nose is just inches from the tops of the tall grass. The firelight catches the curve of his neck and the slope of his shoulder. The sweat from the day's work has dried, leaving his coat matted in places. but the rider has brushed him down, a ritual of thanks. Now, the cool night air moves through his mane. The long, coarse hairs of his tail swish lazily back and forth. Swish, swish. It is not a frantic movement to chase away flies, for the flies have gone with the sun. It is a slow, rhythmic pendulum, marking the passing of time. The rider listens to the sounds of his companion. They are the most grounding sounds in the world. Ferb. Jasper blows out a long breath through his loose lips. It is a fluttering, vibrating sound. In the horse world, this is a signal of release. It means the tension is gone. It means the adrenaline of the herd work has left his veins. He is emptying his lungs of the dust and the heat, making room for the cool, clean night. Then comes the sound of chewing. Jasper finds a patch of sweet buffalo grass near the tree. He tears a mouthful. Rip. The sound of the grass breaking is crisp. Then the rhythmic grinding of his molars. Crunch, grind, crunch, grind. It is a slow, deliberate sound. There is no hurry. He is savoring the sustenance. To the rider, the sound is better than music. It tells him that Jasper is healthy, that he has an appetite, that he is content. A horse that eats is a horse that is at peace. The bond between a cowboy and his horse is not like the bond between a man and a dog. A dog looks up to you, a cat looks down on you. But a horse looks you in the eye as an equal. They are partners. Out here, survival depends on this partnership. If Jasper were to run off, the rider would be stranded in a sea of grass. But Jasper does not run. He stays. Not because of the thin rope tied to the branch, but because this camp is his home too. The man is his herd. The rider watches the horse's ears. Even in sleep, they are radar dishes. One ear is flopped to the side, completely relaxed. The other rotates slowly back toward the tent, then forward toward the dark prairie, then back again. He is listening for both of them. He is the silent sentry. This allows the rider to surrender to sleep, knowing that Jasper is on watch. If a coyote comes too close, if a snake slithers through the grass, Jasper's head will snap up, his ears will prick, and a snort of warning will wake the camp. But for now, the ears are soft, the eyes are half closed, heavy-lidded. If the rider were close enough, he would see the long, thick eyelashes resting against the horse's cheek. He would see the soft eye, that look of gentle benevolence that horses get when they feel safe. The smell of the horse drifts into the tent. It is a warm, musky scent. It smells of grain and sweat and leather. It is an honest smell. It reminds the rider of miles traveled, of rivers crossed, of storms weathered together. It is a scent that grounds him, reminding him that he is a creature of the earth, just like the animal standing guard. A light breeze ruffles Jasper's forelock, the hair falling over his eyes. He shakes his head slightly, a rattle of the halter ring against the rope, and then settles back into stillness. The rider whispers into the darkness, "Rest easy, old friend." Jasper's ear flickers back at the sound of the voice. He knows he is being spoken to. He knows he is seen. He does not move, but the rider feels the connection tighten. A silent thread of trust runs between the man in the blankets and the beast in the grass. The horse shifts his weight again. Thump. The sound of a hoof repositioning on the earth. It is a heavy, solid sound. It speaks of presence. Jasper is real. He is there. He is the anchor that keeps the rider from floating away into the vastness of the night. The firelight is dying down, turning the copper coat to a deep bronze, then to a shadowy brown. Soon, Jasper will be just a darker shape in the darkness, a warm void in the cool night, but his presence will remain. The rider feels a wave of gratitude wash over him. In a life of solitude, this four-legged companion is the witness to his existence. They share the same water, the same trail, the same stars, and as the rider's own eyes begin to close, the last thing he hears is the steady, rhythmic breathing of the horse, in, out, in, out. It is a lullaby of strength and peace, breathing in the night, breathing out the day, yea. The fire has burned down to a pile of glowing rubies, casting only a faint, ruddy light on the toes of the rider's boots. The world at ground level has gone to sleep. The grass is still. The birds are silent. Even the wind has held its breath waiting. The rider, lying on his back in the shelter of the canvas tent, shifts his gaze upward. He looks past the ridge of the tent, past the silhouetted leaves of the cottonwood tree, and out into the open. And there it is, the infinite canopy. In the cities of the East, men build roofs of slate and timber to shut out the sky. They build ceilings of plaster to hide the rafters. But here, on the edge of the frontier, there is no roof. There is only the open vault of the universe. Tonight, the sky is a revelation. It is not merely a backdrop, it is a living, breathing presence that presses down upon the earth with a weight of sheer beauty. The blackness of space is not empty. It is a canvas of the deepest, richest velvet, so dark it seems to absorb the very idea of light, and yet it is overflowing. It is crowded with stars. They are not the polite, scattered stars of the town, dimmed by gas lamps and smoke. These are the raw, burning furnaces of creation. They are packed so densely that in some places there seems to be no black space between them at all. They are a dusting of diamond powder thrown across a table of obsidian. The rider's eyes, adjusted to the dark, trace the spine of the night, the Milky Way. It stretches from the northern horizon to the south, a colossal arch that divides the heavens. It looks like a cloud of steam, frozen in time. It looks like a river of spilled milk, glowing with a ghostly pearlescent light. The rider knows that this is not a cloud, but the combined light of billions of distant suns, so far away that they blur into a single stroke of white. He lies there, feeling the solid earth beneath his back, and lets his mind travel upward into that river of light. It is a dizzying sensation. For a moment, gravity seems to lose its hold. He feels as if he could fall up, tumbling off the prairie and into the depths of that glittering stream. It is a feeling of vertigo, but it is not frightening. It is exhilarating. It is the feeling of being a small but essential part of a grand design. The air between the earth and the stars is incredibly clear. There is no moisture to blur the view, no dust to scatter the light. The stars do not just shine, they pierce, they tremble, twinkle, shimmer, steady. The rider focuses on a single star, a bright blue-white beacon high in the zenith. Vega, perhaps, or Altair. He watches it pulsate. It changes color slightly as its light travels through the layers of the atmosphere. Blue, then a flash of red, then white again. It is like a heartbeat. It signals that the universe is alive. He thinks about the ancient people who looked at the same sky, the tribes who followed the buffalo, the explorers who crossed the oceans, the shepherds on the hills of old. They all slept under the same canopy. They all connected the dots of light to create stories, monsters, and gods. The sky is the oldest storybook in the world. To the north, the Great Bear, Ursa Major, prowls along the horizon. The Dipper is tipped forward, as if pouring its contents onto the earth. The rider finds the two pointer stars at the edge of the cup and traces the invisible line to Polaris, the North Star. The anchor, while all the other stars wheel and turn, dancing their slow waltz around the sky, Polaris stands still. It is the nail that holds the canopy in place. It is the friend of the traveler. As long as that star burns, the rider knows where he is. He knows which way is home. The sheer scale of the canopy brings a profound silence to the rider's mind. His daily worries, the price of beef, the broken fence, the ache in his shoulder seem laughably small when set against the backdrop of infinity. What is a broken fence compared to a burning sun? What is a long ride compared to a light year? This perspective is the ultimate medicine for insomnia. The infinite canopy demands nothing. It does not judge. It simply exists, vast and eternal. It tells the rider, you are here for a blink of an eye. Do not waste it worrying. Just be. He traces the dark patches within the Milky Way, the great rift where dust clouds block the light of the stars behind them. It looks like a dark river flowing within the bright one. It adds depth to the sky. It shows that the universe has texture, layers, and mysteries that the eye cannot fully penetrate. A satellite. No, it is 1885. There are no satellites. There are no blinking red lights of airplanes. The sky is pure. It is untouched by human hands. It belongs only to the Creator and the silence. The rider pulls his blanket up to his chin. The cold of space seems to radiate down, crisp and clean. He imagines the light of the stars falling on him like a fine rain. It is a light that has traveled for centuries to reach him. The light hitting his retina right now left its source before he was born, perhaps before his country was born. He is seeing the past. This thought is comforting. It connects him to time itself. He is lying in the present, looking at the past, dreaming of the future. The canopy seems to rotate slowly, a giant wheel turning on a silent axle. If he watches the edge of the tent, he can see a star disappear behind the canvas, while a new one appears above the tree line. The earth is a ship sailing through this ocean of night. He is the passenger, the stars are the lighthouse keepers. The feeling of awe settles deep in his chest. It is a heavy, warm feeling. It relaxes the muscles of his face, smooths the furrow of his brow. His jaw unclenches, his hands open. Under the gaze of a billion stars, there is no need to be tight, no need to be ready. The stars have seen it all, and they are still shining. The canopy is not just a roof, it is a blanket of light pulled up over the sleeping world to keep it safe from the absolute void. Infinite, he whispers to himself. The word hangs in the air, small and fragile against the silence, and the stars twinkle back, a silent affirmation. Infinite, endless, eternal. He is safe here, a tiny speck on the prairie, held in the cupped hands of the cosmos. The night has been dark, ruled by the distant, cold authority of the stars. But now the balance of power is about to shift. The rider, lying in the warmth of his bedroll, senses the change before he sees it. The quality of the darkness is altering. The absolute black of the eastern horizon is softening, dissolving into a deep charcoal gray. Something is coming. He turns his head to the east. There, dominating the skyline, stands the mesa. It is a massive formation of rock, a geological altar left behind by the erosion of millions of years. Its top is perfectly flat, a table set for the giants of old. Its sides are steep vertical cliffs that drop hundreds of feet to the valley floor. During the day, the mesa is red and brown, banded with layers of sandstone and shale. But tonight, against the starlight, it is a silhouette of pure obsidian. It is a black void cut out of the sky. But behind this black wall, a fire is kindling. A faint glow begins to outline the jagged rim of the mesa. It is a ghostly halo, a soft luminescence that backlights the scrub oaks and the crooked junipers clinging to the cliff edge. The stars that were hanging low over the mesa begin to fade, washed out by the growing radiance rising from below. The rider watches with the patience of a man who has nowhere else to be. This is the theater of the wilderness, and the curtain is rising. The glow intensifies. It turns from a pale gray to a rich, creamy white. The very air above the mesa seems to thicken with light. The anticipation in the valley is palpable. The coyotes have fallen silent. The wind has stilled completely. The earth holds its breath. And then the breach. First, a tiny sliver of blinding white light crests the rim of the rock. It looks like liquid silver spilling over the edge of a dam. It is intense, piercing through the darkness like a spotlight. Then the curve appears. The silver watchman is revealing himself. Slowly, majestically, the moon rises. It is full tonight. It is a perfect sphere, vast and heavy. Because of the atmospheric magnification near the horizon, it looks immense, twice the size of the moon seen from the city. It is not just a celestial body. It feels like a visiting planet. As it detaches itself from the rock, it changes color. For a moment, it is tinged with the dust of the atmosphere, glowing with a faint harvest gold. But as it climbs higher, shaking off the dust of the earth, it brightens into a pure, polished silver. The light hits the valley floor. It does not happen all at once. It is a slow invasion of illumination. The light flows down the side of the mesa like a waterfall. It catches the high points first. The tops of the cottonwood trees ignite with a silvery sheen. The tips of the sagebrush turn into thousands of tiny, glowing sparks. The light creeps across the grass, pushing the shadows back, reclaiming the world from the void. The rider feels the light touch his own face. It is a cool light. Sunlight feels warm. It penetrates. But moonlight feels like a cool liquid. It washes over the skin, soothing and cleansing. He opens his eyes wide, letting the reflection of the moon fill his vision. This is the silver watchman. For the cowboy, the moon is more than just a rock in the sky. It is a guardian. When the moon is full, the night is not dangerous. The deep shadows where predators might hide are illuminated. The treacherous ravines are revealed. The herd can be seen from a mile away, a sea of dark shapes resting in the silver bath. The rider looks up at the mesa again. The moon has now cleared the rim completely. It hangs suspended in the velvet sky, a lantern hung by an invisible hand. The contrast is striking, the bright pitted surface of the moon against the utter blackness of space. He can see the man in the moon, the dark Maria or seas of basalt that form the familiar face. It is a face that has looked down on this land long before the cattle came, long before the tribes came, long before the grass grew. The landscape undergoes a transformation. Under the starlight, the world was two-dimensional, a flat collection of shadows. But under the moonlight, the world regains its depth. The hills look round and soft. The dry creek bed looks like a ribbon of white sand. The distance is no longer a mystery. He can see for miles. It is a monochromatic world. There are no greens or browns or reds. There is only black, white, and 1,000 shades of silver gray. It is like a photograph developing in a dark room, details emerging slowly from the paper. The rider notices the shadow of the cottonwood tree. A few minutes ago it was a shapeless blob. Now, under the strong directional light of the moon, the shadow is sharp and defined. It stretches out across the camp, a long, distorted, intricate pattern of branches and leaves, painted on the dirt. As the moon rises, the shadow moves, rotating slowly like the hand of a giant clock. Creak. The world seems to expand. The claustrophobia of the dark is gone. The sky feels higher. The horizon feels wider. The moon brings a sense of spaciousness to the night. The light catches the metal fixtures of the camp. The buckle on the saddlebag glints with a sudden spark. The rim of the tin coffee cup shines. The bit hanging from the saddle horn reflects a curved beam of light. These small, man-made stars ground the rider in reality. He looks over at Jasper. The horse has turned into a phantom. His copper coat reflects the moonlight, giving him a ghostly, ethereal appearance. He looks like a spirit horse, glowing against the dark grass. Jasper, too, seems to appreciate the light. He lifts his head and blinks at the rising orb, his eyes catching the reflection, turning into two luminous pools. The arrival of the watchman brings a new kind of silence. It is a bright silence. It feels expectant, magical. The rider feels a sense of reverence. He is witnessing the nightly miracle of the cosmos, the turning of the spheres, the dance of gravity. He imagines the moonlight touching the rest of the continent. He imagines it sliding over the peaks of the Rockies to the west, painting the snow in shades of blue. He imagines it touching the waters of the Mississippi to the east, turning the muddy river into a highway of silver. He feels connected to everything that the light touches. The moon continues its ascension. It is moving away from the earth, climbing toward its throne in the zenith. As it rises, its light becomes harder, cleaner. It casts deep, ink-black shadows behind every rock and bush. The contrast is stark and beautiful. The rider pulls the blanket up. The beauty of the scene is so intense it almost hurts. It is a lonely beauty, a beauty that doesn't care if anyone is watching. But he is watching, and he takes it in, drinking the silver light like water. "Watch over us," he whispers to the orb. "Keep the herd safe. Keep the shadows at bay." The silver watchman, silent and bright, continues his climb, beginning his long vigil over the sleeping earth. The silver watchman, the moon, has climbed higher into the sky, casting its cool, impartial light over the sleeping earth. The camp is quiet. The symphony of the crickets has softened into a steady background hum. The fire has burned down to a bed of deep, pulsing embers, a mound of garnets breathing in the dark. The rider is inside his canvas sanctuary. He is warm, tucked into his bedroll, but sleep has not yet fully claimed him. There is a moment just before the mind lets go of the day, when it seeks a connection to something other than the here and now. It seeks an anchor to the past, a reminder of a life that existed before the saddle and the stars. He reaches for his saddlebag, which sits near the head of his bed like a pillow. His hand navigates the familiar leather in the dark. He ignores the tin of tobacco, ignores the box of matches. His fingers search for something softer, something more fragile. He finds it. It is a small packet, wrapped carefully in a piece of oiled silk to protect it from the rain and the river crossings. He pulls it out. It weighs almost nothing, yet to him it carries the weight of a world. He sits up slightly, propping himself on one elbow. He moves the packet into the faint light. The glow from the embers outside the tent flap casts a dim, ruddy illumination across his hands. It is just enough light to see. He unfolds the oilskin wrapper. Crinkle. Shh. Inside lies a stack of envelopes. They are bound together with a piece of blue ribbon, now faded to a pale gray by time and touch. The envelopes themselves are yellowed, the edges soft and fuzzy like felt. They are made of old parchment, distinct and textured. They smell of lavender and dried rose petals, a scent that has miraculously survived the dust and the smoke of the trail. These are the whispers. He does not need to open them to know what they say. He has read them 100 times. He has read them by the light of a kerosene lamp in a bunkhouse during a blizzard. He has read them under the shade of a wagon during the scorching noon heat. He has memorized every loop of the ink, every pause in the sentences, but tonight he treats them as if they are new. He unties the ribbon. The knot is loose. It knows the routine. The ribbon falls away, curling onto the blanket like a small, tired snake. He picks up the top letter. The paper feels cool and smooth against his rough, calloused fingertips. His hands are maps of hard labor, scarred, sun-spotted, and tough. The paper is the opposite, delicate, refined, and domestic. The contrast is striking. It is the meeting of the wild frontier and the gentle parlor. He holds the envelope up to the fading firelight. The handwriting on the front is elegant, written in the flowing Spencerian script of the time. The ink, once a bold black, has turned to a sepia brown, fading into the paper as if the words are slowly becoming part of the fiber itself. Mer William H. Garrett, Texas Territory. He traces his own name with his thumb. It feels strange to see it written down. Out here, he is just Bill or Slim or simply Hey. But on this paper, he is a gentleman. He is a son. He is remembered. He slides the letter out of the envelope. The sound of paper sliding against paper is a whisper, dry and soft. Swish. He unfolds it. The creases are deep, threatening to tear if he is not careful. He handles it with the reverence of a museum curator holding an ancient manuscript. He smooths it out on his knee. The light is too dim to read the words clearly, but he doesn't need to see them. As his eyes scan the familiar shapes of the paragraphs, the voice of the writer fills his mind. It is a soft voice, gentle and melodic, untouched by the harsh winds of the prairie. It is a letter from home, from the green hills of the east, where the rain falls soft and the grass grows thick and lush without thorns. My dearest William, the whisper begins in his mind. He closes his eyes for a second, letting the greeting wash over him. In the silence of the tent, he can almost hear the scratch of the nib pen against the paper. He can see the inkwell on the oak desk. He can see the light of the window falling on the hand that wrote this. The letter speaks of small things. It does not speak of wars or politics or money. It speaks of the garden. The lilacs are in full bloom this week, the letter whispers. I wish you could smell them. The air is so thick with their scent that it drifts all the way into the kitchen, and the old apple tree by the fence has finally decided to bear fruit again after all these years. The writer breathes in. For a moment, the smell of sagebrush and campfire smoke vanishes. In its place, he smells the phantom scent of lilacs, sweet, floral, and heavy. He sees the purple clusters of flowers swaying in a gentle breeze that carries no dust. He runs his finger along the bottom of the page. The paper is slightly buckled here. He knows why. A drop of water, rain, a tear from the writer. T had fallen on the page years ago, warping the fiber. It is a physical mark of the moment of creation. He touches the bump in the paper, connecting with that specific second in time, years ago and miles away. The letter continues, whispering news of the town. Ms. Higgins has a new cat, a terrible orange thing that sleeps in her flower box, and the church bell has been fixed. It rings clear across the valley now, marking the hours. The image of a town square rises in his mind. Brick buildings, paved streets, the sound of a church bell tolling. Dong, dong. It is a sound of order, a sound of community. Out here, time is measured by the sun in the stomach. Back there, time is a machine, regulated and shared. It feels like a dream. Did he really live there once? Did he really wear starched collars and walk on sidewalks? The paper is the proof. Yes, that life existed. And because this letter exists, that life still goes on, somewhere, even without him. He turns the page. Rustle. The back of the sheet is blank, save for a postscript. Keep safe. The porch light is on. He smiles in the dark. A porch light, a tiny beacon of civilization. He compares it to his campfire, his porch light on the plains. They are not so different. Both are lights in the dark, signaling presence, signaling hope. He refolds the letter slowly, following the original creases. He slides it back into the envelope. He does not feel sadness. He feels a deep, abiding warmth. These letters are not reminders of what he has lost. They are batteries. They store the love and the peace of a distant place, and tonight he has drawn a little bit of that power to keep him warm against the chill of the night. He picks up the next envelope. This one is different. The paper is thicker, rougher. The handwriting is jagged, hasty. It is a letter from an old friend, a partner from a cattle drive years ago who settled down in Oregon. He holds it, feeling the texture. This letter whispers of a different kind of peace. It whispers of pine forests and cold, rushing rivers. The cabin is finished, the voice recalls. The roof is tight against the snow. You should see the mountains here, Bill. They touch the clouds. The writer imagines the snow-capped peaks of the Cascades. He imagines the sound of an axe chopping wood in a silent forest. Chop, chop. The echo bouncing off the trees. He realizes that these letters are a collection of lives he could have lived, and lives that touch his own. They are windows. Tonight, inside his tent, he is not just a solitary man on the prairie. He is a traveler visiting these distant rooms, smelling the lilacs, hearing the church bells, feeling the snow. The fire outside pops, a loud crack, and a piece of the log falls, sending a brief flare of light into the tent. The light dances over the stack of letters, illuminating the blue ribbon. The writer feels a wave of drowsiness. The mental journey to the east and the north has relaxed his mind. The sharp vigilance required for the trail has been replaced by the soft focus of memory. He holds the entire packet in his hands, feeling its bulk. It is light, but it is solid. It is his history. He prepares to put them away, but not just yet. He holds them to his chest for a moment. He breathes in the scent of the old paper one last time. It is the scent of the past, preserved in amber. Thank you, he whispers to the ghosts in the ink. I hear you. The whispers fade back into the silence, leaving behind a residue of comfort. The connection has been made. The battery is recharged. He reaches for the oilskin wrapper. A harmonica in the distance. Hloe gulper anitiam shrutim dur eben abishik. Atmospheric adhyai. Raater nisbadatai durer kono kaubier bajano harmonikar sur. Ettig hummer jenny nichunt ekti. Lalabai ba lori hisebe kajkre. Yehetu 300 shabed ekti cheyatabik se ekbare deoia sembihebini. ताई आगर मतोय आमी ए विशाल अध्याय तिके तृतीय भागे भाग क्रे लेखब नाइस पार्ट वन देओ याहलो एखाने सूरर प्रथम भेसे आशा बतासिर ओपर दिए भेसे आशा सूरर कंपने बन से सुरती चेनार मुहूर्त ब्रन्ना क्राहिएचे. Chapter 12, A Harmonica in the Distance, Part 1 of 3, The Ghost Melody. The letters have been folded and returned to their oilskin sanctuary. The memories of the lilac garden and the town square have receded, tucked away safely in the saddlebag. The writer lies back again, his head resting on the rolled-up denim jacket that serves as his pillow. The camp is darker now. The fire has finally given up its ghost, collapsing into a small heap of gray ash with a glowing red heart buried deep inside. The visual world has almost completely vanished. The tent walls are no longer a canvas for dancing shadows. They are just faint, pale barriers against the night. In this near-total darkness, the rider's sense of hearing expands once more. He listens to the rhythmic breathing of the herd, the swish of Jasper's tail, and the gentle sigh of the wind. But then a new sound enters the soundscape. It begins so faintly that at first he thinks he is imagining it. It is not a natural sound. It is not the rustle of grass, or the call of a bird, or the cry of a coyote. It is melodic, it is structured, it comes from the valley, carried on the back of the gentle southwest breeze. It rises and falls, fading in and out like a weak radio signal from another world. Whom? Whom? The rider smiles in the dark. He knows what it is. It is the French harp, the tin sandwich, the harmonica. Out there, circling the sleeping herd, is the nighthawk, the cowboy assigned the lonely task of the midnight watch. He is riding slowly, his horse picking its way carefully through the sagebrush, and to pass the time, to keep himself awake, and to let the cattle know he is there. He is playing. The sound of a harmonica at night on the open prairie is unlike any other sound on earth. In a room, a harmonica can sound shrill or tinny, but out here, in the open air, the sound is transformed. The sharp edges are filed down by the distance. The notes are stretched thin by the wind. By the time they reach the rider's tent, they are no longer just notes. They are vibrations of pure emotion. The song is familiar. It is always familiar. There are only a handful of tunes that seem to fit the vastness of the West, and every cowboy knows them by heart. The rider listens closely, trying to catch the melody. Come sit by my side if you love me. Do not hasten to bid me adieu. It is Red River Valley, but the melody is slow, painfully, beautifully slow. The player is in no rush. He holds the long notes, letting them drift out over the backs of the cattle, letting them hang in the cool air until they dissolve into silence. The reed of the harmonica trembles, giving the sound a wavering, vocal quality. It sounds like a human voice humming, but clearer, sharper. The physics of the night air works its magic. Cold air is denser than warm air, and it carries sound with startling clarity. The music travels for miles, sliding over the smooth surface of the cooling earth. The rider imagines the scene out there. He sees the nighthawk, a solitary silhouette against the stars, slouching comfortably in the saddle. He sees the reins looped over the saddle horn, the horse walking on a loose lead. He sees the cowboy cupping the small metal instrument in his gloved hands, shaping the sound, bending the notes with his breath. Breath in, breath out. The harmonica is the only instrument that breathes like a living thing. You blow out for one note, draw in for the next. It is a cycle of respiration, mirroring the breathing of the rider, the breathing of the herd, the breathing of the night itself. The music acts as a tether. It connects the sleeping camp to the waking guard. It is a signal that says, I am awake, I am watching, you can rest. The song changes. The Red River Valley fades away, replaced by a momentary silence, filled only by the crickets. Then a new tune begins. This one is lower, deeper. Oh, Shenandoah, I long to hear you. Away, you rolling river. Shenandoah, the ultimate song of longing. The notes dip and soar like a river flowing over stones. The sound is mournful, yes, but it is a sweet mourning. It is a sadness that feels good, a melancholy that cleanses the spirit. It speaks of distances that cannot be crossed, of loves left behind, of the endless rolling motion of the frontier. The rider feels the music vibrating in his own chest. It resonates with the frequency of his own heart. The sound is soothing, wrapping around his mind like a warm blanket. It pushes away the silence that can sometimes be too heavy. He notices the Doppler effect as the nighthawk rides. The music grows slightly louder as the guard circles closer to the camp, the notes becoming fuller, richer. Then, as the guard turns and rides toward the far side of the herd, the music grows fainter, thinner, drifting away into the void, near and far, loud and soft. It is a hypnotic cycle. It mimics the movement of a pendulum. It mimics the waves of the sea. The cattle love it. The old-timers say that music calms the savage beast, and it is true. The herd, which might be spooked by the sudden snap of a twig or the shadow of a cloud, finds comfort in the steady, predictable melody. It masks the startling noises of the wild. It tells them that the predator is not near, for predators do not make music. Only the protector makes music. The rider imagines the cows lifting their heads, sleepily, ears twitching toward the sound, and then lowering them again reassured. The music is a blanket of sound woven over them. Inside the tent, the writer feels his eyelids growing heavier. The harmonica is doing its work. It is not a song for dancing. It is not a song for marching. It is a song for drifting. The notes seem to hang in the air like smoke rings, suspended for a moment before dissipating. The high notes sparkle like the stars above. The low notes rumble like the earth below. There is a specific quality to the bend of the harmonica note, that moment when the player draws the air harder, flattening the pitch. It sounds like a cry, a plea. It touches a nerve deep inside the writer's memory. It reminds him of his mother singing in the kitchen. It reminds him of the wind howling around the eaves of a house he hasn't seen in years. But tonight the sound is gentle. It is a harmonica in the distance. The distance is key. If it were right next to his ear, it would be intrusive. But from a quarter mile away, it is perfect. It is part of the atmosphere. It blends with the smell of the sage and the cool touch of the breeze. The player shifts to a major key now, a simpler, happier tune. Home on the range, where seldom is heard a discouraging word, and the skies are not cloudy all day. The irony is not lost on the writer. The skies are not cloudy tonight indeed. The stars are witnessing this private concert. The music weaves a spell. The writer's thoughts begin to fragment, losing their linear structure. The music becomes a river, and he is a leaf floating on it. He is no longer lying on the hard ground. He is carried by the melody. The sound of the harmonica is the voice of the West itself, lonely, beautiful, rough, and tender. It is a simple instrument, cheap and durable, made of tin and wood. But in the hands of a lonely man under a galaxy of stars, it becomes a Stradivarius. The song tapers off. The nighthawk has likely stopped to roll a cigarette or adjust his hat. The silence rushes back in, but it is softer now. The echo of the music lingers in the writer's mind, a phantom vibration that continues to soothe him, even after the sound has stopped. He waits. He knows it will start again. And sure enough, a minute later, the soft, reedy hum returns. It is the heartbeat of the night, beating in 3/4 time, a waltz for the sleeping world. The show is over. The curtain is falling. Outside the canvas walls of the tent, the great theater of the night continues its performance. The stars are still wheeling in their silent arcs. The moon, the silver watchman, is still pouring its cool light over the mesa. The harmonica is still weaving its faint ribbons of melody through the sagebrush. But the writer is no longer a spectator. He is retreating. He is withdrawing into the final, private sanctuary of his own body. He lies on his back, his hands resting loosely on his chest. The fire has burned down to its final stage, a heap of gray ash shielding a few stubborn glowing coals. The light in the tent has faded from a warm orange to a dim, barely there dusk. It is a light that does not demand sight. It is a light that invites blindness. The cold of the high plains has settled in earnest now. Frost is beginning to form on the tips of the grass blades outside, a microscopic crystallization of the air. But inside the bedroll, there is a microclimate of pure warmth. The rider is wrapped in layers of heavy wool. The blanket is scratchy against his neck, but it is a familiar texture. It is the texture of safety. The wool traps his body heat, creating a cocoon that separates him from the freezing void of the night. He feels the warmth pooling around his shoulders, his hips, his feet. It is a physical weight, pressing him down into the earth, and the earth pushes back. The ground beneath him is hard. There is no mattress, no feathers, no springs, just a layer of canvas and a blanket between him and the soil. But tonight, this hardness does not feel uncomfortable. On the contrary, it feels solid. It feels grounding. It supports his spine, straightening the kinks of a long day in the saddle. He feels the planet supporting him, a massive, unmoving hand holding him up. He becomes aware of gravity. During the day, gravity is something to be fought against. You fight it to stay in the saddle. You fight it to lift a bale of hay. You fight it to stand upright. But at night, gravity becomes a friend. It becomes a gentle force that anchors him. He feels his body surrendering to this pull. It starts in his boots, or rather, where his boots used to be. His feet, now clad only in thick wool socks, feel heavy. The muscles in his arches, tired from pressing against the stirrups for 12 hours, finally let go. The tension dissolves like salt in water. The relaxation travels up his ankles, into his calves. His legs feel like logs of wood, heavy, inert, and deeply at rest. He wiggles his toes once, just to feel the warmth of the wool, and then lets them be still. The stillness spreads, but the sensation is strongest in his eyes. Throughout the day, the eyes are the scouts. They are constantly moving, scanning the horizon for stray cattle, watching the ground for snake holes, squinting against the harsh glare of the sun. They are the sentries that never sleep. But now the sentries are relieved of duty. The rider stares up at the ceiling of the tent. In the dim light, the weave of the canvas is just a blur. He tries to focus on a shadow, but his focus slips. The sharp edges of the world are softening. He blinks, slow. The eyelids feel different now. They are no longer thin membranes of skin. They feel thick. They feel weighted. It is as if small, warm stones have been placed upon them. Open, he forces them open again. The effort is immense. It requires a conscious command from his brain to lift the lids. The muscles around his eyes protest. They want to close. They crave the dark. Blink. This time the closure lasts a second longer. The darkness behind the lids is rich and velvety. It is a relief. When the eyes are closed, the brain stops processing images. The constant stream of data, light, shadow, color, movement, stops. And in that cessation there is peace. He feels a pleasant stinging sensation in his eyes, the Sandman's dust, as the old stories say. It is the body's chemical signal that the system is shutting down. The writer thinks about the concept of weariness. There is a bad kind of weary, the exhaustion of stress, of worry, of illness. But this is the good weary. This is the honest exhaustion of a body that has worked hard under the open sky. It is a clean fatigue. It feels earned. Every muscle fiber is humming with a low-frequency vibration of rest. His shoulders, which bore the weight of the sun, sink deeper into the bedroll. His hands, shaped by the grip of the reins, uncurl completely. They lie open, palms up, receiving the night. Close. The eyelids drop again. This time he does not fight to open them. He lets them stay closed for a count of 3. 1, 2, 3. When he opens them again, it is only a slit. The world has narrowed down to a thin line of gray light. The tent ceiling is gone. The shadows are gone. There is only a haze. The weight of the weary eyelids is a physical sensation, but it is also a metaphorical one. It is the weight of the day being shed. As the eyes close, the responsibilities of the sunrise seem a million miles away. The cattle are not his problem right now. The trail is not his problem. The weather is not his problem. His only job now is to yield. He breathes in deeply. The air inside the tent is a mixture of wool, leather, and the dying fire outside. He breathes out slowly. With the exhale, he feels his body sink another inch into the ground. He visualizes his eyelids. He imagines them as heavy velvet curtains in a grand theater. The play is finished. The actors have gone home. The audience has left. And now the great curtains are sweeping down to touch the floor. Down, down, down. They touch. The seal is made.
The darkness is instantaneous, but it is not a scary darkness. It is a warm red-black darkness, colored by the blood flowing through his eyelids. It is a cozy private room where only he exists. He decides to test the weight. He tries to lift his eyebrows to pry the eyes open one last time to check the fire. But the signal from his brain is weak. It travels down the nerve and fizzles out. The eyelids refuse to budge. They are glued shut by the sweet, sticky resin of sleep. Good, he thinks. The thought is slow, drifting like smoke. Let them stay closed. The struggle is over. The gravity has won. And in that defeat there is absolute victory. The rider has successfully navigated the dangerous waters of the day and has arrived at the safe harbor of the night. He is no longer looking out. He is looking in. The sensation of the body continues to fade. He can no longer tell exactly where his feet end and the blanket begins. He is becoming a single warm point of consciousness floating in the dark. The weight on his eyes is now a comfort, a gentle hand pressing him down, whispering, "Sleep now. Sleep." The transition has begun. The weary eyelids have locked the door to the world, and the rider is safe inside. Embers fading into ash. Adhyaiti, holoaguner shes muhurter brana. Ekti, daudaukre, jabla, agun, kib habe dhire dhire shant. Haye chahiye print, hai. E darshiti, manusar maner kanaiklatake. Shant krarjni ekti, shktishali rupk, metaphor. Agun, nibhe yaoya mane diner, smapti eben ghumer shuru. Yehetu, trina maitindo shabadekti, jat bikse ek bare deoya, ism behebi tsai. Tai agur matui ami, e bishala dhyayitike, triti bhage bhakre likhab. Nice. Part 1. Deoya lo. Ekhane, kilar stupar bhitrar, chuni o panna. Mato, ujabla ebna gunar, shbas prashbaser. Pulsing light. Brna doya yeke. Chapter 14. Embers fading into ash. Part 1 of 3. The Crimson Pulse. The rider's eyes are closed, weighed down by the heavy velvet of sleep. But even through his eyelids, he can sense the light changing. The sharp, flickering brightness that danced on the tent walls earlier has ceased. The visual world has stopped jumping. It has settled into a steady, low-frequency glow. He opens his eyes one last time. It is a mere slit, a tiny window into the world he is leaving behind. He looks out at the hearth. The fire is old now. It has lived its life. The flames, those yellow and orange acrobats that leaped into the air hungry for oxygen, are gone. They have consumed the wood, stripped it of its gases, and vanished into the night sky. What remains is the soul of the fire. It is a bed of coals. To the casual observer, the fire might look like it is dying, but the rider knows better. This is the hottest part of the fire's life. It is the most intense, yet the most quiet. The pile of oak logs has collapsed in on itself, losing the shape of wood and taking on the shape of memory. It has become a mound of glowing geometric shapes, cubes and pyramids of pure heat. The color is no longer yellow. It is a deep, rich crimson. It is the color of a blood moon. It is the color of garnets and rubies spilled onto the black earth. The rider watches the breath of the embers. It is a hypnotic phenomenon. When the night breeze sighs through the camp, shh, the air hits the coals. Instantly, the dull red brightens into a vivid, blinding orange. The heat surges, the light expands. Then, as the breeze dies down, the orange fades back to the deep, sullen red. Glow and fade, brighten and dim. It is the pulse of the prairie. The fire is breathing in time with the wind, in time with the rider, in time with the sleeping herd. Watching it is like watching a slow heartbeat. It captures the mind and holds it still. There is no chaos here, only a rhythmic cycle of energy. The rider focuses on the texture of the coals. The wood has broken down into a microscopic landscape. In the center of the heat, he can see tiny canyons of fire, cliffs of glowing charcoal, and caves of white light. It is a miniature world, fierce and beautiful, existing for only an hour before it turns to dust. He imagines himself shrinking down, walking through those glowing valleys. It is a strange, dreamlike thought, the kind that comes only when the brain is untethering itself from reality. As he watches, a small piece of charcoal shifts. The structure of the pile has weakened. Clink, hiss. The sound is delicate. It is the sound of entropy. The piece falls, exposing a fresh, white-hot interior to the air. A tiny fountain of sparks shoots up, gold dust rising into the black. They float upward for a foot or two, swirling in the heat currents before winking out one by one. Blink, blink, gone. They return to the darkness from which they came. The rider tracks one spark with his eyes until it vanishes. It feels like a metaphor for his own thoughts. They are rising up, bright for a moment and then disappearing into the void of sleep. The ash is beginning to win the war. Around the edges of the red coals, a fine gray powder is forming. It is soft, like flour. It is the ghost of the wood. As the heat leaves the outer layer of the charcoal, the color drains away, leaving behind this fragile, white-gray coating. The ash acts as a blanket. It covers the red heat, insulating it, keeping the warmth trapped deep inside the pile. This is why a fire banked with ash can last until morning. It sleeps, just like the man. The light in the tent is growing dimmer by the minute. The crimson pulse is getting weaker. The circle of light that the fire casts on the ground is shrinking. Earlier, the light reached all the way to the horse, Jasper. Now, Jasper is in the shadows. Earlier, the light illuminated the trunk of the cottonwood tree. Now, the tree is just a dark pillar. The world is closing in. The darkness is stepping closer, tightening the circle. The rider feels a profound sense of safety in this shrinking world. The darkness is not an enemy. It is a curtain being drawn around his bed. The smaller the circle of light, the cozier the room feels. He feels the temperature drop slightly. The radiant heat that was hitting his face is less intense now. It is a gentle warmth, a dying kiss. He pulls the wool blanket up to his nose, burying his face in the rough fabric. The contrast between the cold air on his forehead and the warmth of his body is delicious. The smell of the fire changes too. The sharp, acrid smell of burning wood and smoke is gone. It is replaced by the smell of toasted minerals, the smell of pure carbon. It is a clean, dry scent. Fading, he thinks. The word echoes in his mind. Everything is fading. The ambition of the day is fading. The hunger is fading. The pain in his muscles is fading. There is only the red glow. It is the last anchor. It is the last thing his eyes will see before they give up completely. He watches a single coal on the outer edge. It is turning gray before his eyes. The red creeps inward, surrendering territory to the ash. It is a slow, peaceful conquest. There is no violence in it. It is simply the natural order of things. Energy becomes matter, fire becomes dust. The stillness of the camp is absolute now. The harmonica has stopped. The crickets have slowed their tempo to a lazy, occasional chirp. The fire is the only thing moving, and its movement is so subtle, it is almost imperceptible. The rider's vision blurs. The distinct shapes of the coals merge into a single, soft blur of russet light. It looks like a sunset trapped on the ground. He feels a heavy, warm wave of sleep wash over him, starting from his head and rolling down to his toes. The embers are not just in the fire pit. They are behind his eyes. His consciousness is glowing softly, dimming, preparing to turn to ash for the night. The transition is nearly complete. The day has burned itself out. The fire has done its job. It has cooked the food, boiled the coffee, dried the socks, and warmed the spirit. Now, it has earned its rest. Go to sleep, the embers seem to whisper. We will keep the watch. We will hold the heat. The rider obeys. The slit of his eyes closes. The red light vanishes, replaced by the warm, dark void. But on the back of his eyelids, the afterimage of the glowing coals remains, a phantom fire that will guide him into his dreams. The fire is gone. The red pulse of the embers has finally surrendered to the gray blanket of ash. The heat that once radiated outward has curled in on itself, hiding deep within the earth. The visual world has been extinguished. The rider's eyes are sealed shut, and the heavy velvet curtains of his eyelids have locked out the last stray photons of starlight. Now there is only the internal world, and even that is beginning to dissolve. The rider lies in his bedroll, but he no longer feels the hardness of the ground. The sensation of the earth pressing against his back has faded. The tactile boundary between his skin and the wool blanket has blurred. He feels weightless. It is a sensation of unmooring, like a boat being untied from a dock. The rope is cast off, the knot slips, and the current takes hold. He is drifting. He is drifting away from the camp. The tent, the saddle, the boots, the coffee pot. All these physical objects that defined his reality for the last few hours are losing their solidity. They are becoming shadows, then whispers, then nothing. They belong to the shore, and he is moving out to sea. He is drifting away from the day. The memories of the trail, the heat of the sun, the dust in his throat, the bellowing of the cattle are receding. They are moving backward in time, growing smaller and smaller, like trees on the horizon seen from the back of a moving train. They no longer matter. They are stories told by someone else, about someone else. He is drifting into the great silence. This silence is not merely the absence of noise. It is a presence. It is a vast oceanic substance that fills the universe. It is darker than the night and deeper than the canyons. It is the primordial silence that existed before the first star was born, and it is the silence that will remain after the last star dies. The rider feels this silence wrapping around him. It enters his ears, not as a sound, but as a pressure, a soft, cotton-like fullness. It mutes the chirping of the crickets. The insect song, which was once a loud symphony, has been pushed to the very edge of his awareness. It sounds miles away now, a faint rhythmic pulse that has nothing to do with him. Fade, fade, fade. He listens to his own breathing. It is the last sound left in his world. Inhale, long and slow. Exhale, soft and shallow. Even this sound is changing. It is becoming quieter, smoother. It sounds like the wind moving through a canyon, distant and hollow. He is no longer controlling the breath. The breath is breathing him. It is an automatic tide rising and falling without effort. His mind, which had been active with thoughts of letters and maps and stars, is finally slowing down to a halt. The thoughts are becoming fragmented. They are no longer sentences. They are images. A flash of a blue river. The texture of a horse's mane. The smell of rain. And then, even the images begin to dissolve. They break apart like clouds in a wind, scattering into mist. The rider is entering the state of hypnagogia, the borderland between wakefulness and sleep. In this state, logic does not exist. Gravity does not exist. There is only the sensation of floating. He feels as if he is lying on a raft, drifting down a dark, calm river. The water is warm. The current is gentle. There are no rapids, no rocks. Just a smooth, endless flow toward the ocean of sleep. He trusts the river. He does not try to steer. He does not try to paddle. He lies back and lets the current carry him. Drifting deeper, drifting deeper. The concept of time disappears. Is it midnight? Is it 3 o'clock a.m.? Has he been lying here for minutes or hours? It is impossible to tell. In the great silence, there are no clocks. There is only the eternal now. He feels a profound sense of isolation, but it is the most beautiful isolation imaginable. He is a single point of consciousness in a universe of peace. There are no demands on him. No one needs him to ride. No one needs him to speak. No one needs him to be anything other than this, a sleeping soul. The darkness behind his eyes shifts. It is no longer flat black. It has depth. It looks like deep space, purple and indigo and void. He feels as if he is expanding into this space. His body is growing larger, lighter, spreading out until he is as thin as the air itself. The self begins to fade. The name William or Bill feels like a label on a coat he has taken off. He is just existence, pure, restful existence. A feeling of heavy warmth settles in the center of his chest. It radiates outward, flowing down his arms to his fingertips, down his legs to his toes. It is the warmth of total relaxation. Every muscle fiber has lengthened, every nerve ending has gone quiet. The telegraph wires of the body have stopped sending messages to the brain. The office is closed. He sinks through the mattress of the earth. He sinks through the crust, through the rock, down into the deep, warm core of the planet. He is grounded in the most literal sense. He is one with the stone and the soil. The great silence thickens. It covers him like a heavy quilt. It blocks out the wind. It blocks out the moon. It creates a cocoon of absolute stillness. Occasionally, a thought tries to intrude. A sudden worry. Did I check the cinch? But the silence swallows the thought before it can fully form. It is absorbed into the void, like a pebble dropped into a bottomless well. There is no splash. There is no echo. Just peace. The rider yields. He gives up the last shred of control. He surrenders his vigilance. The Nighthawk is out there. The stars are out there. God is out there. He does not need to be the watchman anymore. He is the sleeper. The sensation of falling begins. The classic sensation of falling asleep. It is not a frightening fall. It is a slow, feather-like descent. He is falling gently through layers of soft darkness. Layer 1, the physical world. Gone. Layer 2, the sensory world. Gone. Layer 3, the conscious mind. Fading. He is approaching the final layer, the layer of deep restoration. Silence, his mind whispers. But even the word is too loud. So he stops using words. He switches to feeling. He feels the quiet. He drinks it in. It is cool water for a thirsty mind. It washes away the dust of the soul. He is drifting further out now. The shore is gone. There is only the vast open sea of the night. The water is still as glass. Above him, the phantom stars reflect on the surface of the phantom ocean. He is floating between two skies. He is safe. He is held. He is gone. The drifting continues slower and slower until movement becomes stillness and stillness becomes sleep.